Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. She's a member of the House Oversight Committee, which, of course, released this report, has been looking into this. So, Congresswoman, I appreciate your time. Now, you found the Chinese government spent more than $5.5 million at Trump's properties while he was in office. Okay, so you've put those numbers out there. You've listed, I hope people will see the whole report. The question, though, is were you able to tie that money to any actions he took as president?
Well, we don't know, Erin, and I want to be clear that the $5.5 million that was discovered is a very conservative estimate. I know that in your opening you talked about the fact that this is an investigation that started 7 years ago, but just so that the American people understand, while it started 7 years ago, Trump was fighting it every step of the way. He was fighting every single type of disclosure. He wasn't complying with the Oversight Committee.
Fair.
And he was fighting in court. So it wasn't until September of 22 that we actually started receiving documents. And as soon as January 2023 hit and Comer became the chair, Comer shut it down.
Right. So, and fair to point out all those hurdles and speed bumps, to say the least, that you faced. But what you did find, Congresswoman, was 20 countries, according to the report, that paid a total of $7.8 million to Trump's businesses during this time. Now, when you went through some of the top spenders, number 2 behind China was Saudi Arabia. And I found this one very important because you found $615,000 spent by the Saudis at Trump properties. Your report, of course, does cover only 2 years of his presidency and only 4 of the more than 500 entities Trump owned while in office, right? And I'm not saying that to diminish your report. I'm saying it merely to point out that you're looking at, with a bright light, a very small place. Do you think the Saudis, for example, actually spent a whole lot more than you were able to uncover?
Oh, absolutely. And obviously, we've talked about the arms deal that took place around this time. You know, it's important. And honestly, Erin, we don't know what, if any, money was spent by Russia as well, right now at a crucial time in which Republicans refuse to help out the Ukrainians. And so the thing is, we needed the full report. We needed the full documentation. And with Comer basically deciding that he was going to obstruct and say, no need to comply. And now we have the former president's son saying, well, it's okay because he owned hotels. No, it's not okay. Not when you're the president of the United States and you don't go through Congress and get permission. So to be clear, if everything was on the up and up, then you just go to Congress and Congress gives you permission or not. But unlike every other president, with Trump, he wants to decide that he's going to skip over the Constitution, skip over the rule of law, and do whatever he wants to do instead of honoring those things. And they absolutely present a danger to us in this country, and as far as I'm concerned, our allies abroad as well.
So, Congresswoman, you know, we had done a documentary, and I looked deeply into the relationship between Trump and the Saudis, just one part. You know, and you were looking at entire hotels that they would rent out always, same time every year, one of his. I spoke to the then Attorney General of Washington, D.C., Karl Racine. He had sued Trump in 2017, claiming Trump violated the Constitution by maintaining a stake in that Washington hotel. And I just wanted to play part of an exchange for you.
When you ask them exactly why they're staying at the Trump hotel, they're very clear. They tell you that they're here to show the president honor. And of course, we know they're here also to act in their country's best interest.
Honor. That's the word they use?
Yes, they're here to curry favor.
And Congresswoman, Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who was obviously instrumental, central in the Trump White House, has now reportedly raised at least $3.1 billion for a private equity fund since he left the White House. Stephen Ratner, one of the top investors out there, has done an analysis pointing out 2/3 of that came from Saudi Arabia. 2/3. I mean, that is just very unusual for a fund. Did you find any evidence of wrongdoing by the Trump White House when it came to the Saudis?
So we don't know for sure, Erin. We don't. And I do want to point out, and I'm glad that you played that piece, because the emoluments clause has always been a concern since Trump entered office and refused to divest himself of his interest. And so it was one of those things that anyone who was blind could see that this could potentially be a problem. And that's exactly why Ranking Member Elijah Cummings decided that it was important to start this investigation. But when we compare and contrast, because I know that people want to compare and contrast the fact that we're dealing with the impeachment inquiry right now and oversight, I do want to point out that no one wanted to jump the gun. We absolutely wanted to make sure that no one accused the president of wrongdoing specifically unless they had the goods. goods unless they had the receipts. And that's exactly what we were starting to get. And Erin, this report only reveals, over $7 million, and we don't have the full view of it. And these are all conservative estimates. We don't have everything that we need, even of what we did give. And so I do want people to understand that there's one party that's playing partisan politics and another party that is simply trying to get to the truth and make sure that we are going to preserve democracy here and make sure that everyone who wants to enter the White House plays by the same rules as any other president.
And important, as you point out, right, you're looking at a very short window of time and very few, very, very small percentage of his properties that you're looking at, and this is what you were able to find.